We are recording. Well, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time to join this evolution of analytics session. You've been staring at my face for the last couple of minutes, and this is who I am. Welcome. Just in case we haven't had the chance to meet, you might be wondering, why am I qualified to speak on the evolution of analytics? A little bit about me. I was at Deloitte leading analytics projects for our Salesforce solutions CRM analytics, so all about bringing insights to people using CRM systems. I also led our internal center of excellence for CRM analytics, and I led the Deloitte implementation. So I got to see the pros and cons of different approaches to implementations, what worked well for certain customers, what didn't work well, and I got to understand what it was like to use it as a customer myself while at Deloitte. I eventually moved to Spotify, where I was the product manager for our analytics tool. So I got to understand the challenges of being a customer and having competing priorities beyond just the analytics in front of you. And finally, I made the move to Salesforce, where I am a CRM analytics SE or solutions engineer. So that means I am on the sales team for our analytics product, and I'm more the technical expert collaborating with our traditional sellers to help answer technical questions. But that's enough about me. What I'd like to do is get to know you a little better, because I know we have quite a lot of folks on this call from different backgrounds. And as soon as I figure out where my poll button went, I'm going to get that poll going. So where are my controls? Here we go. So I'm going to launch this poll. And if you don't mind, just 4 questions, should be pretty easy. Go ahead and fill this all out. And I'll also mention, as we're going through today, if you ever have any questions, please go ahead and use the chat. I'll monitor it at the end. Julian's taken the ability to monitor it now. I will also say I'm not seeing anybody participate in the poll yet. So if you're having difficulties, please let me know, and we'll get that sorted for you. All right, I think we got a couple mobile users, so that might be what's going on. We'll give this just 1 more minute, and then I'll share out the results and we can talk about today.
Joanna, it's a little bit unfair of me because I actually sold CRM analytics for the last 2 years. I'm an AE at Salesforce.
Perfect. I think we got another AE on the call as well, so you're in good company. Don't worry about it. So with that, you should be able to. I'm going to share the results just now. We do have a good variety. We have some analytics sales users, analytics consulting, also folks who create analytics insights, and then people who use those insights. In terms of experience with Salesforce, got a little bit of the gamut. So again, as we saw there, a couple of people who still work with me, some current users, and then one person who's not terribly familiar, which is just fine. Tableau, all across the board for people who are experienced with it and not terribly familiar with it. And then CRM analytics as well, some disparate views on that. So thank you for that. That's really good context for me, because I'm going to be getting into the weeds a bit, and this helps me understand what is good to elaborate on versus what accidentally insults intelligence and I can just move on from. So thank you very much. In terms of what we're going to be talking about today, I want to kick off with talking about the evolution of analytics. I'll be leaning in on this Gartner report that came out a couple of years ago that talks about the 4 different types of analytics that have been out in the world. Then I'll do a quick demo of what that final form of analytics will look like in action. Then I'll talk about where analytics is moving to with the evolution of AI. And then I'll try to leave about 10-15 minutes for questions at the end. We have some really smart people on this call, so hoping to have a little bit of good conversation. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and kick us off. All right, so evolution of analytics. Analytics can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. Gartner came out with this report about 10 or so years ago, and they talked about 4 different kinds of analytics. And they talked about the applicability of each of these types in the business world. So we're going to kick off with the first one they talked about, called descriptive analytics. So when we think about descriptive analytics, that is what is happening. So a quick example of that. Oh, we had 4.4% year-over growth. We have had 15% ROI. Average days to close in a sales cycle is 28 days, or we have 88% customer satisfaction. Those are those KPIs, those numbers, those things that go on an executive report slide to say, this is what is happening with our business. Some challenges with that, those can be out of date sometimes. The moment something gets put inside a PowerPoint slide, it becomes outdated because it's not coming from real-time sources. Sometimes these are created by a bunch of analysts getting together and doing a bunch of VLOOKUPs in Excel to join together a bunch of different systems and say, ta-da, this is our metric. So to get more timely data, what a lot of companies have evolved to is the world of data warehouses, data lakes, data lake houses in the case of Data Cloud, where they are looking at all these different sources and figuring out how can I join these together more systematically so I don't have to have manual intervention. And that helps those descriptive analytics be faster, which is great. But the other part is, okay, now that I have this information, so what? That's where the next phase of analytics comes in, where we say, okay, yes, these are the metrics we have, but why are those the numbers we have? That's where diagnostic analytics comes in. So yay, we might have this 4.4% year-over-year growth number, but what's contributing to that? That's where diagnostic analytics comes in. So in the case of that year-over-year growth, you start to look deeper into the numbers and you see, oh, there were these 3 big deals over 2 million. Those contributed to that higher year-over-year growth. Or we had higher ROI than expected because we had an earlier launch. So we started generating profits faster. Or we're starting to get longer sales cycles because the products we just released are more complex. And so you need customers to understand them a little bit better. You need more time to make that happen. Or you might have a higher CSAT than you did a while ago because calls are getting resolved faster. So there's the Simon Sinek 5 whys. So it's not just enough to have the number, it's why do we have that number? Because from a business perspective, once you know why, you can start to trend that and start to say, how can I replicate this or how can I avoid it in the case of a bad number? So that's descriptive analytics going into diagnostic analytics, the what and the why. Then we start to evolve into, well, what if or what might be? So that's where predictive analytics comes in. And for anybody who's taken a stats class with regression analysis, this is probably what comes to mind when you think analytics. So the idea that, yes, we have all these numbers. Yes, we know where these numbers came from. Now that we know how we got at these numbers in the first place, can we forecast? Can we predict? Can we trend out what's going to happen in the future? So yes, we had this year-over-year growth to date. This is where we anticipate going in the future. This is the ROI we anticipate having at year end. This is the sales cycle time we expect to see in a month. This is the CSAT we expect to see in the future. So it's all about forecasting and predicting so that you can do something with your business. If you know where your growth is going to be, if you know where your ROI is going to be, you are going to know where you can allocate budgets, allocate different headcount, how much demand is going to be on your business. It's all about where are we going so that we can then decide what to do with it. And that gets us into that last stage of analytics, the prescriptive analytics. All of these things before, those are really good ways to look at numbers and ways to understand the metrics supporting a business, but nothing matters unless you understand what to do with that information, what should happen. So if your ROI is going in one direction, these are the deals I should prioritize to drive the year-over-year growth up higher. We should do this with the launch to get this % greater ROI. We need to, if we're trying to reduce sales cycle time, well, then maybe we have to build sales plays to simplify the communication around these products so that the sales cycle time can be reduced. If we're trying to continue to improve CSAT, we should put in more training around these to get the call time shorter so that CSAT can be increased. You've probably heard the phrase analysis paralysis. That's the idea that we can have all this information in front of us, and then as analysts, as analytics users, we can get really into, ooh, this is happening. This is why it's happening. Now I understand what factors contributed to that. Now I have a whole picture of what's going on. But if you're thinking to the future and trying to either raise revenue or decrease costs, so what? I'm going to repeat that phrase over and over today. So what, so what, so what? If you don't know what you're going to do with all this information in front of you, the work you're doing in analytics doesn't ultimately mean anything. So that's where we get to today. Yes, you need the descriptive to understand what's going on. You need the diagnostic to understand why it's going on. You want to look to the future, but then if you want to affect that future, you need to have that prescriptive analytics to help tell you, your users, your executives, what to do with your business to help meet your goals. And that's where the product I tend to work on comes in. It's called CRM Analytics. It's a Salesforce product, and I'd like to show you a little bit today. So for folks who aren't necessarily familiar with the product, I do want to take just a quick step back. For folks on the recording, if you're watching this, you might have heard of Einstein Analytics, Tableau CRM, CRM Analytics, all the same product. We as Salesforce have just had a tendency to rename things as our branding has evolved. So I want to take just a quick second and kind of talk about where this name came from. If you don't care, skip ahead to 2 minutes from now and we'll just get into the product itself. But just very, very quick history. In 2013, there was an analytics tool called EdgeSpring, and they did really beautiful visualizations based on connecting to a bunch of different data sources, including Salesforce. Salesforce then acquired it in October 2014. We named it Wave. We also acquired a machine learning tool called BeyondCore, and then we roped that in with Wave to create this product called Einstein Analytics in June 2017. That was all about business intelligence, data visualization, machine learning to help bring analytics to CRM users. Then in 2020, when we acquired Tableau, we wanted to unify our analytics product portfolio. So we renamed Einstein Analytics Tableau CRM. That created a little bit of confusion for our customers. So we then shifted the name to CRM Analytics to talk about how this is analytics for CRM users. I know it's confusing. I know it's a lot of branding. As somebody with a marketing degree, I know this is a lot, but I do think it's important to reground in because one of the most popular questions I get when I present content like this is, are they the same product? Are they not? And this is a really good regrounding. So as I get into this, let me show you CRM Analytics and what that looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and toggle over to my Salesforce system. And I'm going to take a quick second for the folks on the phone who aren't Salesforce users. So for people who aren't Salesforce users, this is just a very quick overview of how the system works. The point of Salesforce is customer relationship management. So if I'm a business and I have all of the accounts I work with, all of the contacts I work with at those accounts, all of the deals I'm working on, I want a single system to help keep track of those so that I can see all of those in aggregate. I can work with my team so we can report on our numbers, report on our forecasts, and see where we're going to head up. There are other Salesforce tools related to service, related to marketing, but for today's call, I'm going to focus on sales. So here inside Salesforce, I have a bunch of different tabs that will direct me to those different parts of the system, like accounts, like my forecast, like my contacts. But today we're going to start with the homepage. So I'm a Salesforce user and I'm logging in for the first time. What do I see? Over here, I see a lovely analytics, buzzword of the day, dashboard. And on this page, I can see a bunch of different things. I can see, here's all the opportunity revenue I've closed so far. This is what I've committed. Here's how far I am to my quota. Here's my meetings to target, just a bunch of top line descriptive KPIs that tell me how I'm doing with my business. This is a really good snapshot to help me understand, okay, I'm doing okay. Now, this is where things get a little bit more interesting. I can see all of my open pipeline sorted by forecast category. And it's May 31st. We have about a month left in the end of our quarter. So I kind of want to look at what I've committed to revenue. So I'm going to click on this commit. It's going to drill down. And so now everything on this opportunity dashboard is showing me what I have committed. And then I'm going to see this thing over here. What does Einstein think of your pipeline? Einstein is the name of that machine learning tool that we use at Salesforce, or that is in this particular dashboard. So what's happening in the background is these opportunities are running through a machine learning model, and Einstein is assessing, hey, are these likely to close or are they not? And that's doing that predictive analytics that we talked about. So it is saying, all right, Joanna, all these opportunities you have open, of the ones that you have marked in commit, based on prior performance of all your opportunities, Einstein is going to predict that actually 307K of these opportunities are at risk of being lost. Well, shoot, that's not good. If I'm a seller, I want to fix that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on these opportunities that are predicted to be lost. And I see over here that my biggest deal from the Omega account, it's 128K and it's at a predicted likelihood to close of only 41%. Not great, because I want that to be 100. So what I can do is I'm going to open this directly from here and I'm going to open that opportunity. So I'm going to take a quick pause here. One of the reasons that this CRM analytics product exists is because it's all about bringing analytics to everybody. So for folks like me who've been in the analytics world forever, traditionally that was a bunch of Excel files or maybe Python analyses. It was very analytics. You have the analytics team, the analytics analysts report out on their learnings to the larger organization. It wasn't always, hey, let's give salespeople analytics to drive their business. This is where CRM analytics comes in, because we have embedded this dashboard inside of the Salesforce system where people are working, so that I, as a salesperson, have these analytics at my fingertips. And now, as I'm isolating this individual opportunity, I don't have to open another system. I don't have to copy and paste anything. I am opening this record from my page. So I am opening this up. I'm going to do a quick reset. And what I can see on this page is a couple different things. So I have opened my 128K Omega opportunity. I see that it's only 41% likely to win. And I can see a bunch of other information going on. So I know this is a lot on a page, so I'm going to break it down. On the left, we have what I like to call just kind of an opportunity snapshot. And so what I can see here is for the Omega account, I can see a bunch of relevant descriptive, diagnostic, and predictive analytics about this account. So I can see here is how the revenue has trended. So that's the descriptive aspect of it. And then I can see that predictive, where do we think the revenue is going to go in the future? That's pulling in that machine learning capability to help understand where revenue might go. I'm also seeing information about my pipeline. I'm seeing information about my CSAT and my support cases. I'm seeing information about what's going on from a marketing standpoint. So the advantage of this is to be able to pull in information from a bunch of different data sources. Traditional analytic systems, you will start with one data set. So you're calling out to, maybe you're pulling in pipeline information. That's great for a sales user. But if you're trying to get that 360-degree customer view and you're trying to be a trusted advisor to your customers, you want to know what's going on in all aspects of the customer. You want to know what's happening in sales, in service, in marketing, in the other places you have a relationship with your customer, so that you can better guide them and be a better partner to them. So that's where this has an advantage. We can also see from that predicted side of things where that predicted win likelihood comes in. So we talked about this being only 41% likely to win. That's a really good predictive analytics use case. But where this gets interesting is not only do we see the predictive aspect, we also see the prescriptive aspect. So from here, I see, yes, this is why the deal is as likely to win as it is. We're seeing the competitor is this, the wins at account in the past year are above average, the quote status is expired, all things that are affecting that predicted score. But where this differs from a lot of machine learning tools is we're seeing, how do we improve that? So I should engage the deal compete team. I should confirm the timeline. I should meet with the decision maker. All of these things are about taking the information we have and the prediction that we have and driving it closer to our desired outcome. So I'm going to act on this. I'm going to take this information and act on it. So how to improve this outcome? Engage the deal compete team. Great, let me do that. Ordinarily, this would be a real meeting we would set up and it'd be a whole process, but for the purposes of this demo, I'm just going to click a checkbox. So now that I have engaged this deal compete team, I'm seeing this predicted win likelihood has gone up to 60%. So as a sales rep, I have much greater confidence in my deal being likely to close because I have acted on the prescriptive recommendations that this tool has given me. So other things that get a little bit interesting. That's kind of the whole life cycle of sales cockpit to individual opportunity to next stage. Where things can also get interesting if you're looking at your opportunities in aggregate. So I'm pulling up my opportunity page and I'm going to just do this for right now. And for folks who have worked in sales before, I know that different sellers have different methodologies for how they track the deals they're working on. That can be everything from a quick little Google sheet they have on the side to using Salesforce really, really well to a sticky note that gets in the bottom of their backpack where they've just written out the 3 things they're working on. Guess which one is more helpful for a manager to see all deals in aggregate? Obviously the one in Salesforce. But the challenge with Salesforce in the past has been a lot of folks don't like entering information into Salesforce. It's seen as an extra step that they have to do because their manager tells them. There's no explanation of why they should be doing something like that. So we at Salesforce got together and said, what can we do to make entering opportunities easier? We said, well, we need to give sellers something in return. And that's where this idea of pipeline inspection came in. So think of this as like a really robust Excel spreadsheet where you can have all your opportunities, you can edit them inside of the view, just like Excel, and you can start to see some nice little analytics indicators. So things like my opportunity close date has been pushed out, or my amount has gone up or gone down. In this case, it's gone up. I'll make that a little bigger so we can see it. So already an advantage because you're starting to see that point in time change, and that's going to draw my attention to it. We can also see those opportunity scores we were looking at the other page. We can see a similar concept here with Einstein scoring showing, hey, Joanna, this opportunity has a really good score because it has this many activities, or because it has this many negative activities associated with it. So all of that good predictive analytics coming into play, highlighting the opportunities we need to focus on based on whether or not they have a good score associated. So what this does is it takes all those great diagnostic analytics, combines it with predictions to say, hey, Salesforce user, here's all the information. These are the opportunities you should focus on based on everything that's going on. I'll also bring up this idea of predictive and prescriptive analytics when it comes to a bigger picture of sales and sales quota. So if you're in sales, chances are you have a quota and you want to know how you are driving to meet that. So let's say I'm a manager, I can log into Salesforce and have this as my homepage. So as Wanda, I can see we are 79% to quota. Well, that's not good enough because my name's Wanda and I'm going to get things done. So I want to see who are my lower contributors and what's going on. So maybe I click into Vanessa and I can see Vanessa is lower than the quota, that she should be attaining. And I can start to see, well, what's happening here? Why is this not necessarily being where it wants to be? So I can scroll down and see, okay, Wanda needs to focus on these because there's no activity. There's no next step against them. It's stuck in a stage. Or these are the opportunities that are going well based on what's changed. Or these are the opportunities that have had close date shift. Or these are the top deals. All of this helps me as a manager better guide Vanessa. Vanessa's her name? Yes, Vanessa, in terms of what she should focus on. So instead of before in traditional analytics views where you just see this is what happened, we are now using analytics to guide sellers in terms of what to do next. And that's where we are seeing dashboards evolve. All the clients I work with, they're building out dashboards, yes, to get that diagnostic view of their business, but they are trying to build them more in terms of guided selling. Here's what our teams should be doing with the information presented in front of them. Last piece I will show, I'm debating exactly how much detail to get into. We'll do this last one. So the other concept we focus on, we've looked at pipeline, we've looked at individual opportunities, we've looked at pipeline, but now let's think about quarterly planning and larger account management. So this is something that comes with one of our Salesforce SKUs. Happy to talk about that offline if you'd like. But one of the things we've seen from our customers is it's great to have information about accounts, those lovely diagnostic elements like year-over-year growth or total revenue, all those great metrics. But unless they're placed in the context of other accounts in their same market or cohort, whatever you want to call it, that's not as meaningful. If I told you company X has 1 million in annual revenue, you have no idea if that's good or not, because is company X a big tech company and is company X a startup? Like, it is hard to know without that anchoring against other clients in the cohort. So that's where this idea of Einstein account management comes in. So here I can see, let's just pick on AJC Corporation. If I click on AJC Corporation, I can see here's a health score, again, coming from a machine learning model, and I can see the win rate, the average deal size, the purchase products, year-to-year spend, a bunch of custom metrics, but it is also in context of similar accounts. So if I hover over this, I see year-to-date spend is 575K. That is 67% higher than similar accounts in their cluster. So what our machine learning model is doing is it is clustering accounts into different segments based on like factors. That could be size, that could be industry, that's something that can be configured. And what we are saying is, okay, AJC Corporation, they're doing great in terms of year-to-date spend versus these other accounts because it is being assessed against those different cohorts. So this is all a great way to contextualize those analytics. So it's not just about those diagnostic metrics, it's about saying, is that good or not, putting a little bit more description underneath it to say whether or not something's doing well. Last piece I'll show here is the idea that, yes, we clicked into AJC Corporation, but we can also get additional contextual insights over here from like an overview of the account. We can also see engagement over time and how they are trending into the future. We can see information about their pipeline, about their service, and then some recommendations in terms of what to do to drive that account health score higher. So the point of all this is to say, yes, it's good to have those initial state analytics of descriptive and diagnostic, but how do you couple them with prescriptive and predictive, or predictive and prescriptive, to help move your business forward? Yes, we need to know what accounts are healthy, but so what? How do we continue driving revenue forward? How do we continue maximizing CSAT, minimizing downtime, and all those things to ultimately reach our business goals? So very, very high level look at how CRM analytics helps bring those things together. I do want to bring this conversation back to our lovely, lovely evolution of analytics chart, because there's something we haven't talked about yet. And that is what is on everybody's minds right now, GPT, and where analytics is going with AI. So if anybody knows what this video game is, it's a video game called Uncharted. I thought there might be a few more nerds on this call, but maybe this is gonna be a swing and a miss. But my point here is this is very much Uncharted territory. This ChatGPT 4 or GPT-4 came out in I think November of last year, and it's already reached 100 million users faster than Google, faster than Netflix, faster than Facebook. It is huge. And a lot of scientists are saying this is going to have a bigger impact on humanity than nukes, than the computer, than anything technology. So it's very, very exciting. It's a little bit scary. And ultimately, it is highly, highly uncharted territory. So in terms of where this fits with analytics, there are a bunch of use cases that people are already starting to see. Things like data cleanup, being able to just run a GPT model against a bunch of data and say, hey, can you clean up the, I don't know, extra spaces? Can you identify duplicates? All these things that used to take a bunch of custom Excel functions or a bunch of worse manual intervention can now be done faster, freeing up analysts to do things that require human intervention with their time. Also writing data dictionaries for folks on the phone who have ever had to manage a data source and be able to label every single field or every single parameter of that data source to say what it is, where it comes from, and what it does. Having ChatGPT or some other GPT function do that for you, huge time saver. Again, freeing up analysts to do tasks only humans can do. It can control your system to find the data set you need instead of having to manually look for a bunch of stuff. It can write code, it can write formulas. It's so much easier to say, hey, write us an SQL function that does this, and it does it without any typos and saves a bunch of time. Ultimately, the advances in this GPT world enable us to automate repetitive tasks so that anything that a human needs to do can be done faster by a human instead of having to take all these resources and reserve them for the more mundane tasks. There are thousands more use cases out there. It's still very new. I'm excited to see what folks are going to come up with, but those are the top ones I'm seeing right now. And there's some articles I've linked in the appendix of this deck that'll go into that in a little bit more detail. Where we're seeing the most nascent use case is this concept of conversational analytics. Another term out there is called cognitive analytics. The idea that you can use natural language to ask for the things you want and have the model spit out exactly what you need without having to do a lot of manual intervention. So let me show you what I mean by this. And I'm about to show some things that Salesforce has on the roadmap for the next release in October. This is all publicly facing, but it's not readily available yet. So since we're a publicly traded company and our earnings call is today, I just a reminder, make all of your purchasing decisions based on only what is generally available. Okay, legal stuff out of the way. Let's get into the fun things. So Salesforce is now working with OpenAI, and we're leveraging their technology to build out our own GPT models, platforms, whatever the acceptable nomenclature is. And so we are now offering something called, or we're about to be offering something called Tableau GPT. And this is where that cognitive conversational analytics comes in. We are using generative AI so that you can just type in a question and get back a full report and a full narrative that might be used to support what you are looking for. So that's a lot of words. Let me show you what that means. I'm going to mute this. So the idea is that you go into Tableau analytics software, if you haven't used it before, and instead of having to go in and say, okay, what data set do I need? Where do I go? How do I create this report? You just type in this question, say, how did our product lines perform in Europe? Type that question. Then Tableau GPT returns the following. So you see a couple of different things here. We just asked it, how did the product lines perform in Europe? And then it automatically creates this chart saying, here are the different collections, here they have performed over time. And here's a lovely little narrative that I can either give to my boss, put in a PowerPoint, read on an earnings call if I want, just to show exactly what is happening. So this saves a lot of time. I know Tableau. I am not a Tableau power user. It would take me a minute to put a chart together just like this and as pretty and as beautifully written as these sentences as well. So again, huge time saver and very, very powerful in terms of what is possible. I think that's about the extent of the demo. I don't want to waste our time. Yeah, that's the extent of what we got in here. So this deck will be available at the end. You will have the link to this. It is publicly available. I'll also post the YouTube link as well. But this is something that will be launched in October, and I think we're going to see a huge amount of appetite for it because this saves so much time and makes things so much easier. The other piece that we're going to start offering is something called Tableau Pulse. So it's all about taking those GPT models, but pushing action through those prescriptive analytics. So this is a little bit hard to see. I'll make it bigger. What Tableau Pulse is every single day you'll get a custom dashboard widget, whatever you want to call it, and it'll show you just a quick pulse of your business. So for example, we talked about those outliers as part of diagnostic analytics. Here, Tableau Pulse is saying your appliance sales are seeing an unusual spike, and then branch revenue and campaign ROI are steadily increasing. So instead of having to look into those spikes and try to understand the trends of where business is going, Tableau Pulse is doing that automatically. Maybe we have said, I want to follow appliance sales. I want to follow branch revenue. I want to follow campaign ROI. I've said I want to follow those metrics. Tableau Pulse is analyzing what's going on with those metrics and showing us those outliers, showing us those potential trends all in one view. So for anybody who's been in an analytics role, you know that this is a big advantage to see what is unusual versus what is normal, and then to have those prescriptive analytics on top of that to tell you what to do with this information is a huge win as well. One last example, similar sort of thing. You can see, let's say I want to click into that appliance sales example from before. I say, great, this is good to know. There's an unusual increase. Well, let me dig into that further. Why is this going on? I can click into it and see, yes, this is above the normal range, but I can ask some of those natural language questions like how do sales compare to last month? How is that affecting our other metrics? And Tableau Pulse will put together a very easy to understand summary of what's going on. We can see air fryers are greater with 200 units, microwaves have greater units, countertop ovens have greater units. We are able to see those in a narrative format instead of having to look through a bunch of Excel reports, or instead of having to slice and dice a bunch of information to get what we want. So I've thrown a lot of information at you. I also talk fast. I'm a New Yorker now, and that is a blessing and a curse. But if you take kind of 3 things away from today, the first one is, yes, knowing what happened, why it happened is good, but more importantly is, what do we do with it? What are those prescriptive analytics? What's going to happen next? Why should we care about this so that we can take action and help our company reach the goals that we have? The other piece I want to carry over is everything we looked at inside of Salesforce was all about embedding analytics. So yes, it's great to have all this information at our disposal, but to have it inside of Salesforce or inside of a system where people are working already, that's going to help people prioritize the information they need so they can, again, drive that action we've talked about. And thirdly, or finally, those conversational analytics, those cognitive analytics from things like Tableau GPT or other providers out there, that opens the door for all of us to use data even more to drive our decisions. There's lots of conversation about AI right now and what GPT is doing. There's a really nice, I think it's from the Center for not Humane Research, Humane Technology. There's a really nice session I've linked to in the appendix of this slide deck that talks about the pros and cons of where AI is going. That's really great to review, but is kind of only tangentially related to this session. So we'll save that for later. But I do think there is a lot of potential for GPT to enable users across the business to become more data-driven instead of just relying on their gut or what's in front of them. So that was a lot. Thank you so much for all your attention today. I certainly appreciate everybody being involved on this call. There are a bunch of other sessions coming up for Busihub that Julian will be posting. And with that, I'll open it up for questions. And I will go to the chat. First things first, when will Tableau GPT go live? Yes, great question. We have, I believe it is October 23. I'm going to pull up I have a hidden slide here. Yes, there's a pilot for Tableau Pulse in fall 23, and then Tableau, I'm going to cheat because I hid it behind this slide. I believe it is also October 23, but I will answer that. And Julian, I know we're going to see each other in London soon, so I'll make sure to have that answer for London as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I
I'll raise a
thought
question.
it was November, by the way. Sorry. I thought
No,
Pulse was
thank you, David. I
November.
appreciate that. And I can look at that over here. I'm curious, are there any folks on the line who have been using any GPT technology? I'm curious, like, what are the more analytics minded use cases you've come up with?
Not necessarily analytics related, but I've used it to generate field logic for converting time zones.
Love that. Does it capture things like daylight savings time and all that stuff too?
Yep. Yeah, well, you kind of add that as an additional wrinkle, right? You tell it to, I'm looking to convert time from mountain time to Atlantic time per se. And then you say, I also want to consider daylight savings time, and it'll do it for you.
So cool.
It sometimes is inconsistent though. I will say I've created code before, and then I go back the next day and it creates a whole different set of code. I'm like, okay, well, what you do different?
Also,
I have a question too, Joanna.
Yeah, do you mind if I just answer the Tableau GPT question? I have our official documentation in front of me. No, you're absolutely fine. So pilots will begin in October, and the first official generally available Tableau GPT features are speculated for February. So if you have a large client that you work with that you want to get involved in that Tableau GPT pilot, either contact your representative, contact me, and I will get you linked up.
Thanks, Joanna.
Absolutely. But yes, back to your question. Sorry.
Yeah, is this going to be kind of readily available from a CRMA point of view as well, or how is that going to look?
That's a great question for our product team. So there's let's talk offline, because there's something interesting coming out. I don't know what I can speak to or not, so I'll get that answer and we'll chat separately.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. And Naldo has a great question. How about Einstein GPT for us CRMA lovers? Will it be focused on creating standard lightning reports and dashboards in core Salesforce? Or do you think we'll be able to spawn dashboards? Oh, I hope we can spawn dashboards. That'd be lovely. So the Einstein GPT use cases right now, and GPT is broad, and Tableau GPT, Einstein GPT, it's still about using natural language to generate insights. Mostly what Einstein GPT is about right now is plugging it into Salesforce to help generate responses to customers, or support case management as well. Those are the big use cases right now, but there's also work with automating test class creation for Apex code. In terms of direct tie-in with CRM analytics to help spawn a dashboard in CRM analytics, I haven't personally seen anything like that, but I will be continuing to watch that as things go on.
Thank you.
Yeah. Also, a quick shout out to Naldo's chat logo. I believe, Naldo, am I right in saying you created that yourself?
Yes.
Yeah.
No
it's good.
AI involved. But it is cool out there. It's very cool.
Mhm. And I will
Okay.
get on my soapbox for one last minute. These additional resources, this AI dilemma, I know this is very off topic for what I talked about today, but it is such a fascinating chat about where AI is going and what this means for GPT. And they talk about how every day they have to refresh Twitter because all of a sudden just new innovations are coming out. And to balance speed of innovation and first mover advantage with ethics is kind of interesting. And one of the things I love about Einstein GPT and Tableau GPT is all of that. Let's say you're a company and you enable Tableau GPT. That is just based on your data. It is not cross-referencing a bunch of other systems. It is not running the risk of exposing your data elsewhere. It is just looking at your information against the larger language model. So, I mean, Salesforce's number one value is always going to be trust. I think that we're doing a pretty good job with it. And it's just this session is a really interesting food for thought in terms of where AI is going in the future.
Absolutely. Okay,
Yeah, thanks.
that's great. Great presentation, Joanna. Thank you
Of course.
for your time. Any other last questions that we can bring up here, or otherwise we can just let Joanna run away?
I'm just taking the last second to plug a couple of upcoming sessions from Julian's organization, Busihub. Julian, remind me the next one.
Next one is on the 13th of June with Jamal on the big deals discussion, mega deal sell.
Love that. I'm not very good at navigating LinkedIn.
No
I was
worries.
trying to find it quickly, but check out Julian on LinkedIn. You'll see all the upcoming sessions he's posted. It's going to be
that one is interesting because this is happening in London.
Excellent.
The Salesforce World Tour on the 29th of June. I will be attending myself, so
I'll be there too. It'll be great. We can have
That's
coffee
great.
together and watch.
absolutely. Thanks to everybody for the ones who attended the session, and with this recording, we'll be able to kind of cover the holistic audience going forward. Yeah.
Cheers. Yeah. So
Thank you.
appreciate
Thank
everyone's
you.
time today.
Thanks,
Thank
Joanna.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you so much.
you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.